Hello, this video will be about making Alkahest of the vegetable kingdom. So, the term Alkahest is kind of a loose description, I guess, because it was first thought to be a universal solvent, but there cannot be a universal solvent because if you were to put it in a container, it would dissolve the container and then you wouldn't be able to store it anywhere, so it would be useless. I guess it kind of exists in a philosophical sense, back with me talking about the Archaeus. So where do I want to go from here? I'll be making this Alkahest in order to use it for extraction of plants or use it to work with minerals and metals. So I've began making the Alkahest of the vegetable kingdom. This sort of recipe is through a PDF I found by a guy named John Reed. Thank you, John Reed, for putting this information out there. So this it starts by working with wine, and this seems to me like the Paracelsus formulation for an Alkahest. Paracelsus, his was caustic lime, calcium oxide, alcohol, and carbonate of potash, so a potassium carbonate. So those three mixed together formed the Paracelsus Alkahest, which could be used for a number of things. Also, I guess in modern times, electrolysis can be thought of as a form of Alkahest because you can dissolve more things with it by running current through the water. But what also the Alkahest seems to do, I guess, is catalyze a reaction, namely to evolve a hydrophobic oil. That's what I understand as the sulfur expression of any kingdom. So the vegetable kingdom is mostly the essential oils of plants are thought of as the sulfur, the oil, the consciousness that is associated with that being. I think that there may be ways to evolve oils from plants that are not necessarily present in the oil in the plant itself. So if you were to extract something that doesn't have a lot of essential oil present in the plant, there may be a way to catalyze reactions towards evolving more of a medicinal hydrophobic oil, or even one that mixes with the water a little bit. The recipe that I've been following, the instructions I've been following for making the Alkahest involves taking wine and purifying the alcohol that is isolating the alcohol, purifying it, and then taking the body of the wine and making wine stones. So I think you can also obtain another menstruum with the wine stones by dry distilling the wine stones. But I haven't really gotten up to there yet. Right now this is concentrated wine, so this is wine with at least most of the alcohol taken out of it, and then condensed, the body condensed, so that there's like a powder, a precipitate that starts to form. And this is wine spirit, so this is maybe about 5 or 6 bottles of wine worth of alcohol. So this is like wine shine, I call it. It's almost like moonshine. It's very, very high proof. So what happens as the process evolves is you eventually will end up taking all of the water off of the body, the darker jar. So that will eventually become a dry powder. So you'll have a dark purple red powder that is represented as the body of the wines, the salts. You then calcine that to the point where you have a white ash, and then try to dissolve that white ash in the spirit. So you have the spirit, and you have the white ash that will eventually be formed from the body of the alcohol. That those once you get those two principles to unite and become one, you have the beginning of your alkahest. So you will have an alkahest that has alcohol as well as potassium carbonate and calcium oxide held within it. But the part you're looking for is the time at which the salts, the calcium oxide and the potassium carbonate, unite with the alcohol and will come over in the distillation train. So you have the alcohol in the heating end of the still, and you add the whitened salts into the alcohol, and you distill. So you distill the alcohol to come over, and if there is something left behind in the heating end of the flask, that's your sign that you must keep going. You calcine that, and then you you cycle again until you get to the point where the alcohol that's being distilled doesn't leave behind anything. So all of your salts have become volatilized. They're all now sublimating and being captured at the receiving end of the distillation. So the PDF that I was reading has to do the next step that it takes it with is with rose quartz. So you can evolve and oil a sulfur from the rose quartz using this Alkahest. There's another half of this though where you add it with red wine vinegar. So you do the same thing that you were to do with the alcohol, with the wine, but you do it with red wine vinegar. So you get the spirit of the vinegar isolated, so you get a volume of acetic acid, pretty as pure as you can get it, I guess, and then or at least some high percentage. And then you do the same thing with the body of the red wine vinegar. You calcine that into a white ash and then circulate it, and then you get the two to come together. So you have the Alkahest from the red wine and the Alkahest from the red wine vinegar, both together and both being distilled without leaving any of the body behind. That's how you know you've got something that you can then work with in a mineral context. So that's the goal here, because I first learned about this sort of stuff through discovering Avery Hopkins' work from Chemia Arts, making metallic oils, and I thought it was absolutely fascinating that that this was a possibility, because I had been doing work with psychedelics for a long time, and I was interested in laboratory chemistry, making drugs, making medicine, making materials, whatever. But once I learned that it was possible to evolve a ingestible medicinal essential oil from a metallic source, and the philosophical implications of that through communing with the sulfur, with the essential oil, the perspective of that metal, you are communing with an immortal consciousness. So you're bringing these substances into your body, and these are a representation of something that is eternal, of a metal, and that each one associates with each chakra point, like the 7 metals and the 7 inner planets. I don't want to get into all of that right now, but just the fact that you can evolve something like a beautifully fragrant ingestible oil from a metal was really interesting to me. And then learning that you can do it with minerals as well. So it's basically endless. Any stone that the earth puts off, you can work with it in a way that you can have this communion with it, as in the same way that you can relate with plants by eating them. So this is a method that allows you to have that sort of relationship with a stone like rose quartz or amethyst or citrine. I mean, those are all quartz stones, but you could do it with any number of stones if you have the process right. But that's where the art comes in, because it's not always the same, and the oils can come out slightly differently each time depending on all these different factors. So that's what the goal is here with the Alkahest, as well as using the Alkahest to extract plants. Apparently you can use these menstruums to extract the sulfur, the consciousness, the perspective of these other beings, and then you can retrieve the Alkahest back, so you can use it again. So it's just through distillation at different points, I'd imagine, that you can retrieve your Alkahest and use it again as a solvent. Water, of course, is also thought of as the universal solvent. This is kind of going in line with the previous videos I did about water, about the Alkahest of water and the living salts and all of that. So yeah, I guess the including the vinegar aspect of the Alkahest kind of expands on the Paracelsus formula that I found on Wikipedia, you know, and so it seems that you would be adding as on top of having the calcium carbonate salt, the potassium carbonate salt, the calcium oxide salt, and the alcohol, you would add the acetic acid and some sort of sodium or potassium acetate salt. So those salts, those ions being present, may help to break down things, different materials differently, so that you can get different things in solution. Or perhaps acting catalytically to produce an oil. So I guess that's all I have to say right now about the Alkahest. I could go into some other things, but I already I talked about polarity in some of the other videos. So I guess this is it. Thank you.